Great. So we've got people still coming in. So we'll give them another 30 seconds because we've got a lot to get through today. Okay.
That's all right. I've got a full cup of coffee and I'm ready to
You got
go.
coffee? I got gin. Actually, no, I haven't. I got water.
Yeah, but you're in a shed. No.
I am in a shed. Yeah, as it says on the screen. So yeah, let's get going. So welcome to another working from home with SEO in the shed. With me, Jon Earnshaw, the Chief Product Evangelist at Datametrics, and today we're going to be talking about internal links, using internal links to please customers and search engines. And this is such a critical topic. 2 weeks ago, we had Lily Ray on, and we were talking about the importance of external links for authority. But today is about what you do with that authority with your internal links. And really delighted today to be joined by the guy who knows probably more about links than anybody else in this space, the legendary, if you know him, if you're in the SEO world, you'll have heard of him. If you're not, Dixon Jones. Dixon, do you want to just introduce yourself, mate?
Oh, that's very kind of you, John. I'm not entirely sure that I know more than a lot of people. There's some pretty bright people out there, and I'm not one of those necessarily. But hi, I'm Dixon Jones. You probably know me from my Majestic days, and I now run inlinks.net, which is a topic-based search tool. So it's built around topics and concepts, and it optimizes and automates internal link structures, amongst other things. So hopefully quite a good topic to talk about.
100%, and we're going to put a link to.
Should have said more. We've got a lot to get through, so that's all right. So.
No, that's great. Yeah, I'm really excited about picking your brains today. Yeah, and as I said, there'll be a link to InLinks in the chat there. And at the end, as always, Dixon and I will be around for 15-20 minutes afterwards on Slack if you've got any questions, but also, feel free to drop questions into the chat as we go through. So, getting straight into it. Why are internal links so important? And we're going to look at this in 3 sections. We're going to look at the importance for search engines, for searchers or your customers, and also for SEO and content teams. So there's a couple of quotes there from Google. Some pages are known because Google has already crawled them before. Other pages are discovered when Google follows a link from a known page to a new page. But yeah. Dixon, I want to hear it from you. Why are they so important, those internal links for Google?
I think people don't really get that, for Google to understand that anything's there, there's got to be links. In fact, well, we can talk about users later, but there's a lot. I remember years ago, I got a link from the BBC, and this is going way back in 2002, 2003. And another SEO, it's one of those agency side, another SEO did a good blog post about buying habits at Christmas and how everyone's going online and stuff. And for some reason they linked to my agency instead of his agency at the end of the whole thing. Probably because they were trying to be unbiased, and they got a link from a really good news article on the BBC. The truth of the matter is that link is still there.
Wow!
But 20 years later, probably more or less, they've still got the page there, but nobody links to the article itself, including the BBC, especially the BBC. So there is no internal link to old stuff that no one cares about, and why would they? The habits of people in 2001 or 2002 for buying behavior at Christmas is no longer relevant in the context of the BBC, but there's no link. So unless there are internal links going into content, then Google's not going to see it. It's certainly not going to get any importance. It's not going to get any page views. So, so Google needs to be able to run around your website quite happily to try and understand what's happening.
Fantastic. So it's almost like passing authority from one page to another.
Oh, we're going to talk about that, I hope. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we are. And I'm going to talk about, well, actually, I won't give anything away. But internal links for your customers. We've got a few items here. It's a super important navigational aid. You mentioned yesterday, we were talking, you said about building trust. What did you mean by that?
Well, the thing is, okay, so there's building trust is important when there's a link out of a page, because so internal links are coming into the page. You need for people to get to your web page and to the content, and they need to then be able to learn as they go. So if you've got a body of text and you're talking about something that may be unfamiliar to them, it really does help. It's only going to be unfamiliar to some other people. So it really does help if you've got a link in to another page that's going to explain that concept. I've just been trying to mess around literally before this came on Microsoft Azure, because my Microsoft 365 on my Teams, I want to be able to allow guests to come in, people that haven't got, in links email addresses, and I can't figure out how to do that. And I'm, obviously I don't have the system administrator. I am the system administrator, so I had to press down buttons and all the search things, and it gets me to a thing called Microsoft Azure, which I've got no idea how to use this in the context of Teams, but I've got to turn a button on there, and I'm running through the thing, and then it says go to your Azure admin panel. There's no link to the Azure admin panel. I don't know what the hell that is. So there's no internal link. So you need that. Otherwise, people don't trust the whole product because they don't know where they're going. So you need that.
Yeah, people get frustrated super quickly. And
as I just did, obviously. It hurt me just a couple of half an hour ago. So yeah.
And when I think about the web, today, it's become a very different place. When we first started using the web, years ago, you'd go on these wonderful non-linear journeys of exploration, following a link, opening another page, bookmarking, and so on. And that was the web that Tim Berners-Lee kind of created, and that's what he wanted. And then
that's what he envisaged, isn't it?
Yeah, and then we started thinking, actually, I don't want all those blue links. This doesn't look so nice. But we've got to understand that people will, land on pages deep within our website if it's well optimized, and we have to give them the opportunity to find and discover things through these migratory pathways throughout our website. And at the end of the day, they're going to stay on our site for longer if they can see those links.
For sure, and yeah, absolutely. They need that ability to feel like they're wandering around. When you're in of course, people will take routes. If you look at a park, you're going to have sections of park that are worn away because everybody walks in the same direction at the same time. That's not to say that you need to have a keep off the grass sign. People still want to be able to go around and have a look at the flower beds and have a look at the other parts of the grass. If they're not doing that, they're not using the park properly. So,
Absolutely. Give people a chance to discover things that are new, relevant, maybe things that they weren't even thinking about. Those links are vital. And then when it comes to SEOers, to content teams, links are hugely important. Contextual optimization, when you inject new content into a website, you've got to start thinking about, actually, within my ecosystem, what is complementary and what is potentially conflicting. Let's prevent cannibalization from happening before it happens. And of course,
I think this slide brings up the 3 points that start really changing the SEO. I mean, this is where you can make a difference, really. If you're just trying to create mega menus just to create links so people theoretically on Google can just see all the pages, that doesn't really give context to those links. If you're linking meaningfully, then it's going to make a massive difference to particularly the modern, Google's modern machine learning and its knowledge panel algorithms. Google's spending a lot of time with natural language understanding, and it's trying to sit there and see what content is about. And those internal links within the body text give context to that meaning. So I think that's really important. And then you make the really good point about cannibalization. So I know it's something you're particularly hot on. Obviously, with your shed, obviously eating people is no, sorry. It's a conflict cannibalization. If you don't tell Google which page is the proper landing page for a particular topic, and when I say tell Google, one of the things I mean there is when you mention that topic on other places, link to the landing page, because otherwise Google's going to say, well, you've got 3 different pages here, all about the same thing. I don't know which one that you want me to go to. And internal links help Google to make that association for you, and then that can make the immediate boost. You get those internal links right. When you've got when you've got new content coming on, of course, if you don't link to your new content, and people come to your homepage all the time, and if you don't tell them the new stuff, then they're never going to know to get there. So very important.
100%. You've got to make it clear for Google or it'll make up its own mind, and that can be very confusing.
You just look at those three things and you say, well, it's not rocket science, is it? I mean, we're going to talk about PageRank now, but you don't have to go to the concept of PageRank to realize that it's not rocket science. You've got to get this right.
Exactly. And when we say we're going to talk about PageRank, I think, Dixon, you're going to be talking about PageRank, because this, I believe, is your T-shirt that you have been out and about wearing with this formula on there.
I happen to know that there is also people at PI Datametrics that have that T-shirt as well. So I know that I'm not alone, but I do like wearing that at conferences. Absolutely, and that's the PageRank algorithm. And
yeah. So could you? I mean, I don't understand that. And then there is a Google link that if you want to understand more, follow this, and it goes to this academic page, which I understood none of. PageRank. We don't talk about it very much now. We used to be obsessed about it. What is it? How does it work? And why is it still important?
So I mean, hopefully they can someone can put the link to the video I've got on PageRank, because I have broken it down into a pretty easy. I say pretty easy. Show you how to do it in a spreadsheet, and actually made a little internet and shown how the PageRank flows. But the idea of PageRank
video that will be in the chat.
It's really this is a pretty straightforward, when it comes to degree level maths anyway, algorithm. And all it's really saying is that if you've got a page and it's got lots of links on it, then if I know how important that page is, I can divide that up by the number of links on the page. There's a little d is a little dampening factor. I can pass them. I can rescore all the pages it links to, or add that score out and reproportion it. And then I can do that for all the other pages. And so I can then start building up a new value for all of the pages based on all those little bits of all the other pages that link through to it. So a page then, the PageRank algorithm is an iterative algorithm that sits there and says, right, I've got a score for every page on the internet. Let's distribute all those scores around all the next lot of pages, and then redo the maths and come up with another number, and then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. And after about 15 iterations, everything balances down, and you've got a new score for all of the pages that doesn't tend to change unless you add new pages into the system. And what people didn't really pay attention to is that this is all done on a page level. And so if you've got a website with 1,000 pages and you're trying to put links on your page, internal links on your pages, then that affects all the PageRank of all your individual pages. So you might want to have a smaller website so that all of the link juice that Lily Ray has brought into your website, is then closely focused on a few topics. Or you could be like the eBays and the YouTubes of this world, where you're completely broad, but you're then relying on your weight is getting distributed very, very, very thinly. So you can't just create a big website and expect to get lots and lots of traffic, because you haven't got the ability to spread that PageRank out and around. So the formula was very clever. Things have changed a little bit. On top of that, now there's loads of other algorithms on top of the concept of PageRank. But PageRank still remains a simple thing within Google's armory. In any other kind of algorithm that they build, they could always say, oh, and then if the PageRank of this page is this, they can pull that into the other algorithms. So God knows how many different algorithms it's in there, because it's still feeding and scoring every single page on the internet. So it's an important concept to know, because so many other algorithms can feed off of Google's PageRank formulas.
Super interesting, particularly that thing you mentioned about, and I've seen you talk about it before, about there's no such thing as domain authority. It's really page authority.
In my opinion, yeah, I think that people get way over obsessed with the concept of, and I don't mean domain authority as in Moz's domain authority, because you can, Majestic's data has a domain metric, and so does Ahrefs, and I'm sure PI as well. We've all got these domain level scores for things, but honestly, it's not about the domain level anymore. And in fact, it wasn't right at the start. It was all about the page level. And I know for the purists out there that page means Larry Page, but it doesn't matter. The score was done at the page level, and now, in fact, for several years now, I think it's much more granular than that, and it's actually at the paragraph and the sentence level. It's in chunk. There's quite a lot of research out there that says if you were to analyze a corpus of content in little chunks rather than chapter by chapter, you're going to get a more granular understanding of what it's all about. So it makes sense that the more you break things down into sections, the better.
And that's super interesting.
We're never going to get through all these slides, mate, in this time. I told you I wouldn't.
No, don't worry. This is good stuff. I'm not going to go through that. That's for people to download, but that's your explanation of that formula.
Yep. But so I can read that out now. Yep. Well, no, you can read that there, but yeah, that's somebody obviously recorded me saying that at a show.
No, right. I really recommend you guys, you go to the video. We'll put a link in there because that explains that you can create an Excel spreadsheet. Dixon shows you how to do that to actually calculate PageRank.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you can't do it for the whole internet. Your spreadsheet won't work. But anyway, we can show you the principle.
Yeah.
Let's internal link. Okay.
So, I've classified them as two broad types. Some people say there are three. They put breadcrumbs in there as well. We got navigational and we've got body links. Which are the most important as far as Google is concerned?
Okay, well, Google on top of the PageRank algorithm has a reasonable surfer patent. Now, I don't know how that necessarily goes into an algorithm, but we think that navigational links are very important for discovery, certainly, but I think that body links are much more important for context and for passing through reputation or power or PageRank or whatever you're going to call the concept. So I think that body links are important, particularly body links that are above the fold. So basically, the more that they're within your line of reading, the more important they are. And so I would say that body links are the more important ones for SEOs. But you've got to have the navigational ones in there as well.
Sure, and certainly, it's true to say that Google will look at the text surrounding that link as well.
Exactly. Yeah, because on the navigational links, there's no context around so a human is pretty good at spotting the context in a navigational link, but a computer is not, and they like those extra words to be around there to see that context.
Absolutely. So, talking of links, I think the next one we've got here. Don't say anything yet. We're going to run a poll.
Oh yes. All right. Okay.
We're going to run a poll. Don't know if we can run that now, or I have to click the. Actually, just got a message from somebody.
It's running. It's running. I can see it on my screen. So okay. Shall I read it out?
Yeah. Go ahead.
What percentage of JavaScript links is Google easily able to crawl or able to easily crawl? So what we want to know is, what do you think about Google's ability to look at JavaScript these days, and particularly links? Do they get very few of them? Do they kind of get half of them, or do they nearly get all of them when they crawl? And we're talking about soon, not sort of months from when the content goes up. So if you could vote. We've got an internal discussion here of how this vote is going to go.
Okay, where are those?
I can't see where the answers are. I haven't got a screen that shows. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Okay. I told you that people would be slightly more educated than we've had thought. So almost all is definitely the right answer. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's because we've obviously got an educated audience here, Dixon.
Yeah, so I think, but it wasn't always the case, is the point, isn't it? Because Google used to be pretty bad at seeing JavaScript links, but over the last 3 to 4 years, they've really been working on optimizing their what they call their web rendering engine. I think they call it. I might have got that web rendering service. So when they crawl a web page now. They crawl the source code and then immediately they render or try and render a chunk of it. They don't do a proper render, and then they feed that rendered content through their system, and then do that. And because JavaScript links all appear on a rendered version of your content, so basically that's very similar to what you see in your web browser, then they're going to see the same thing. So if it's on your web browser, then you've got it. don't ever look at view source anymore. You can look at the inspect tool, so you can inspect in Chrome, but if you look at view source, you're looking at a very, very old methodology for looking at your code.
That's a really good tip, because I know most people just jump straight into view source. So what about if I'm using Screaming Frog and it crawls my site and says I can only crawl 3 pages? You know, do I need to panic? Do I assume Google cannot fetch and render?
I'm pretty sure, you'll have to ask Dan from Screaming Frog, but I'm pretty sure there's a button to say, do you want Screaming Frog to render the content before it crawls or not? And I think that that will slow it down, but it'll do all of the rendering, and therefore it should crawl the JavaScript.
Awesome. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
I'll give you another little tip. So Google just literally last week, I was and I checked. I had to go and message Martin Splitz, who's Google's JavaScript guru, and they've only just last week added the rendered version into the Google structured testing tool. So Google has a structured data testing tool, and up until last week they were unable to see JavaScript in a lot of that testing tool, but now they've fixed that, and now it suddenly sees all the JavaScript.
Awesome. Didn't know that. Super cool tip. Thank you, Dixon. Okay, ideal link structure. Okay, what is it? Okay, you talk about link graphs, and how can you audit your own? Okay, a lot of questions there on one. Again, we're getting tighter on time, but what is the ideal link structure? Is there one?
Well, for me, I mean, again, you've got to have your navigation so it's sensible for logical and for users, and hopefully that's topically based. But much more important, I don't see a link graph as a link of pages. I see a link graph as a link of concepts within pages. So the way that we look at a link graph is we will or the way we build a knowledge graph of a website at InLinks, because what we do is we scroll all the content, say, right, this sentence or this paragraph is about that, or that section is about that section is about that. We've mentioned that 5 times, so we tabulate it all. So we're tabulating all the topics and then and where they are. So therefore, the link graph, if you're going to then optimize your internal links, is about connecting those topics all together. So it becomes the more that you're a specialist in 1 or 2 or 3 topics in your content, the more that you have less landing pages, but all the other subsidiary content and stuff is linking back to those key landing pages, because you keep on talking about the same things. And the broader you get, the more important it is to make sure that your link graph defines those topics better. Otherwise, you're going to find it very, very difficult for users and search engines to understand where the context lies.
Super interesting. So now we're talking about getting on to get a better understanding of our own website, to understand how that's structured. And there are a bunch of tools here you can use. Obviously, with Pi, you can see all the links that are coming into your website, from an authority perspective. But what we want to know about here is, how that is handled and managed through internal links. You talked about Bing Search Console, which I've got very little experience with, but you can get an understanding of your
the reason I'm doing that is because about 3 days ago, Bing announced that they were going to expand their backlink tool, so it started mentioning links from competitors and to competitor sites and things as well. So it's getting a broader functionality. So you can't just go in and say, right, give me. Well, maybe you can go and give any links. It does, though, still produce things like the links in Google Search Console, which are backlinks. So they're not internal links; they're links from other websites. So it's not optimizing your internal link structure. Bing and Google Search Console will give you lists of links from other websites. The internal link stuff. So I see you've given me a very kind of a screenshot for InLinks down there. So that's showing how your topics are being. So it's tabulation of the topics. So it's showing the green ones on the top is sort of the topics in that are most often used in a particular corpus of content. And so we have a link graph, a variation of that thing that will sit there and say, well, which is the main page for these ones? And as you go down the topics, and then how many links are coming in, and then, you know, so we can work out how many links are going into each of those topics from each of those pages in the body text, according, well, that we set up anyway. So mapping internal links. I mean, you can do something in Screaming Frog as well, but I don't know if it's graphically very good. And it's getting that context right. You know, auditing and seeing your internal links is pretty easy, I think, in PR Datametrics and in links. It's not so easy to see it in Google Search Console or in Bing for sure.
Cool, great. I mean, and this is a topic we could probably talk all day on, but time, as always, well, it was always going to be against us, wasn't it? Once you know.
It was really, wasn't it? Yeah. Let's move on.
We need to start. So, killer question, $1 million question: can you increase rankings via internal linking alone?
Yes, you absolutely can, and we've got a case study that we've maybe that can get into the chat box as well. We did a case study in French, actually. It was a French news site, and demonstrating an uplift, and we've just translated that into English, even though the study was done some time ago. The interesting thing, though, is that yes, you can raise rankings via internal linking alone, and you probably will because you're providing more context. You're not necessarily providing more power to the overall website, though, so you can't just carry on forever increasing rankings on brand new keywords forever and ever and ever and ever. There's a, you know, I used to think of it as rock pools, and you've got waves coming in, and your site is lots of little rock pools, and each little page is a rock pool, and so you've got some external juice coming in, and the water flows up, and the pages near the top, you know, always fill up with water, and then as it goes up, you know, it kind of up at the end there's these dry pages that can't fill up with water. Well, if you write a channel, you can get some water going in there, but there's only the same amount of water coming into the whole site.
Great analogy. I love that, and I recommend people.
Very philosophical today on a Friday, haven't I?
You are, aren't you? You are. I recommend people check that case study out. Again, we'll put a link into that somewhere. Here's another way that internal links, and we talked about this one recently. This is a often an MI report from Pi, and this is looking at one giant retailer in the UK, and for home furniture by room, it shows they're actually missing out on £4.5 million a week in revenue with content sitting on pages 2 and 3. So it's, you know, it's off page 1, pages 2 and 3. You know, it's close. It's an opportunity. Turns out 42% of that is actually down to internal conflict, and we find that so often the case. You eradicate internal conflict, and your visibility will improve. And here's an example of that there. So this was an example. We talked about this a few weeks back. More content was added. It wasn't added contextually. No links were really put in. Google didn't understand the relationship, and it caused this cannibalization. You fix that.
That's such an incredible chart to show. And your data's to be able to show that is really powerful. I think it does show. You know, if you just talk about it, it also shows why duplicate content doesn't really work very well, doesn't it? Really, I mean, if you're going to say the same thing twice, you're just wasting everybody's time, really. You don't actually say anything once.
100%. Yeah, I like that. Is one of my favorite charts. I wheel that around everywhere. So again, moving on, we're going to kind of start wrapping up here. Internal links, do's and don'ts, things to do. Do you want to pick something out of that list, Dixon? What jumps out to you?
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to go for I think being contextually relevant and consistent is probably the most important thing, and that starts actually by deciding what your main landing pages are about. And that's not, everybody has been used to saying, right, this page is about, I don't know, hotels in Brighton, and this page is about, you know, and we'll have another page for rentals in Brighton, and another one for, you know, for apartments in Brighton. You know, it's all the same thing. You know, it's, you know, if that's what it's about, then that's what it's about. You don't want to cannibalize your stuff necessarily. It's about one thing. Well, it's about hotels and it's about Brighton. You know, it's about two things. Sorry, but you then need to make sure that you've decided that that's your landing page. That's where you want your users to go. It's where you want Google to understand, so they can get the match right. So therefore, all of your internal links need to then feed to that mantra. So you need to be sure about the target pages and why you're linking to them. And then don't link randomly. Don't just get more links out of context, because all you're going to do is reduce the context, the contextual relevancy.
I love that. I knew you were going to pick that one. Contextually relevant and consistent. Leave Google in no doubt, and you're also going to please your searchers as well, or the people on your website. And then things definitely not to do. I'm going to pick one from there. Don't make me think. You know, be careful with that anchor text and leave me and also Google in no doubt as to what that destination page is all about. And you do that consistently, that's going to work really well. Is there anything else that you want to pick off that list, Dixon?
Yeah, I think the don't try to sculpt PageRank with no follow, just for the techies out there. You know, using the no follow internally is a pretty weird thing to do, and it's highly unlikely that you're going to make much difference, because you can probably get to the same page through 3 or 4 other links, and so the PageRank is going to start doing what it's going to do anyway. Your no follow is not likely to make the kind of difference you think it's going to be, because of the way PageRank works. And even so, it just puts up a red flag. Why are you using no follow on internal links? It's saying you're not trusting your own site.
Wonderful, wonderful. And again, we could talk all day, but we're kind of out of time there. I guess you know.
I'll tell you what, we nearly did it on time though. I was dubious, guys. We kind of like did a little. He showed me the slides that we were going to be putting up yesterday, and I thought, no chance, mate, no chance. But what do I know? No.
Yeah, well, I think this is the 10th webinar in a row, so we're getting used to this. It was a gallop, but thank you so much, Dixon, for your time today. It's been brilliant.
Thanks a lot, John. Really appreciate it.
No worries, and guys out there, thank you again so much, and I'm sure we'll see you again in a week or 2. So wonderful. Yeah, and of course, Dixon and I will be on Slack. We're going to be on Slack for 15-20 minutes. So
good thing you reminded me. I've got to go and find that link. I know I've got it here somewhere.
Yeah, you can finish your coffee, and I'll see you on Slack, mate. Thanks, Dixon.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Cheers.